What's up, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube? Boogie2988 coming at you live once again. I'm doing a story time, but I'm going to do it in two parts because there's two different aspects to this topic. But I want to talk about my history with gaming, and more importantly, I want to tell you how gaming not only did I need to not go get a life, stop gaming and go get a life, but how gaming actually gave me the life that I have today. The first part here, I want to talk about online games and MMORPGs and video games in general. And tomorrow, I'm going to talk about tabletop gaming and how it affected my life. When I was a kid, the very first console I ever had was an Atari 2600. I eventually got my hands on a NES, and they had rental games for the Nintendo Entertainment System. And I would go to that video store, the only video store in my small town, and I would rent every game, $1 a day, back in the 80s. $1 a day, $1 a day, $1 a day. Zelda, Super Mario, Duck Hunt, Link to the Past, or not Link to the Past, but Zelda 2, all these games, all those classic games, and all the shitty NES games too. And eventually they got to know that I would keep these games until I beat them. Like, I wanted to beat every game they ever owned, and I would keep it 2, 3, 4, 5 days, even miserably bad games like Solomon's Key I would try to beat. And if I couldn't beat it on my own, I would use the Nintendo Power Hotline. And eventually I became known in town. Even though I was that weird, messed up, gross, fat kid in town, I was also the kid who knew those video games back and forth. So when a customer was having trouble beating a game, they would write their question down. I would come in and I would write the answer down, and they would pass it on to the customer when they were having trouble with a game. And that was probably my first real positive feedback that came from gaming. That rental store, the people that worked there were very, very kind to me, and I really appreciated it. And as an adult, I started messing around with MUDs when the internet was new, back when, it was all text-based and it was Gopher. I started playing this MMORPG called Genocide out of Texas, AMU, LMU, I'm not sure. Amazing game. It was the very first online experience I ever had with gaming. And I moved from there to, computer coding and learning how to code HTML and writing websites for people and having that become my business. Like, that interest in computers sparked something that kept me self-employed for 10 years. But eventually I heard about some MMOs, multiplayer online. I heard of Ultima Online, and I played it at a friend's house. And it was okay, but I couldn't get addicted to it. I heard about this graphical MUD called Meridian 52. I couldn't get addicted to it. But eventually this game, I forget the name of the studios, now owned by Sony Online Entertainment, called Everquest came out. And my computer could run it at the time, the one I had bought to do my work on at home, so I invested in it, and wow, it actually kind of did destroy my life. I stopped working as much, and I started playing more, playing constantly, 2 hours a day, 4 hours a day, 6 hours a day, 8 hours a day, 12 hours a day. I was playing Everquest like it was a career. And in fact, it replaced my career. And I had put a lot of investments in place that would pay back to me. So I was able to support myself right at the poverty line for a long time while playing EverQuest for the next 4 years of my life. And a lot of people would say that was a terrible time in your life. You were screwed up. You weren't working. And that's true. But what a lot of people don't realize is that due to my shitty childhood, food addiction being the most visible, but I suffer from a host of depression and anxiety disorders that cause my everyday life to be very difficult. Way less difficult these days. But back then, when 98, I was miserable. I was fucking miserable. And not only was I miserable, but I was making everyone around me miserable. I was trying to make these friends through Magic the Gathering and by, all this stuff, but I was just a shitty person. And eventually, when I found a new place to crawl into that wasn't the world around me, which I had no control over, but a world where I could control and succeed in, I dove into that. But what I did learn from EverQuest is I was very bad at socially interacting with people. I was a douchebag. I didn't understand the rules. I didn't know. I'd been raised in a nightmare. I didn't know. But EverQuest gave me the shield to protect myself so that I could get out there and I could interact with people, and I joined a guild, and I became a guild officer, and eventually I became a guild leader, And I ran raids, and we organized these things, and I interacted with people, and I talked to them, and I learned about their problems, and I helped them with their problems, not in game, but even personal lives. And eventually we started talking on Ventrilo. And I went from EverQuest to World of Warcraft. And again, I did that there. I met people, I learned about them, I learned the social conventions that were so foreign to me from growing up in such a small town and growing up in such an abusive home. And I have found that playing those games gave me that capacity to learn and understand in a safe behavior, safe way, that I wouldn't end up hurting somebody else, or I wouldn't end up getting hurt. I did get hurt a lot, but it was because I was absurdly sensitive about everything, and I would have these anxiety moments, and I would have these depression moments, and I wouldn't get the cloak I wanted, or someone would quit our guild, or I get put on somebody's ignore list. And eventually I branched out to like the Praxis forums, and then I was being like toughened up by just being ridiculed because I was kind of popular on the server I played on Praxis, and these people would just lash out at me on the forums, and they would just fucking tear me down because of my stupid, idiotic, shitty behavior, because I was a shitty person, you know. But I learned a safe and healthy way. And so the reality of it is, even though I gave up one life for gaming, I got another one, and a much better one, the life you have here now, because I continue to game all day, every day now, you know. But and I'm playing Guild Wars 2, I'm playing Diablo 3, I'm playing Mists of Pandaria when it drops. I mean, I 2 or 3 hours a day I'm still playing these games, and there's a compulsion to do it because I've learned so much from it. It feels like a learning experience for me, not just because I'm getting purple gear, but because I'm interacting with people all day, every day, people that have become my best friends. My friend Tim, my best friend online, certainly, and maybe one of my best friends of my lifetime in person, I met through World of Warcraft. One of the best people I've ever met. And it's amazing. So if you tell me I have to get a life because I'm a heavy gamer and because I'm an old man sitting in his bedroom playing video games all day, fuck you. I have a life. I have a wonderful life. You know, I have many lives. I have multiple lives, because not only just some stupid fat tax-paying American, but I'm also this barbarian warrior in Everquest, and I'm a dwarf warrior in World of Warcraft, and I'm an elementalist in Guild Wars 2. I'm everything. I've defeated dragons, I've taken down giants, I've fought gods. So you enjoy your one life, buddy, and I'll enjoy my thousands. How about that? How many lives can you buy for a quarter, asshole? As I can buy at least 3, and at 20,000 more points, I get a 4th one. Fuck you. But that is truly the truth. Now, they've recently done studies that show that video gaming is very treatment beneficial to people who suffer from anxiety disorders, depression issues, both which I suffer from. Gaming can help you correct that. And in fact, they've even now begun to write games that people with depression, with anxiety can play to help them learn to problem solve the issues that they're dealing with. And you know what they found? These are more effective than chemical therapy. They are more effective than oral therapy, talking to somebody on a couch. And I may have been one of the pioneers in that. I may have been one of the first people who helped solve his depression and helped solve his anxieties by playing video games. I thank God for it, because the life I have now is very filled with pressure. A lot of people think YouTube is the easiest job in the world, and it certainly can be very pressure-oriented and very difficult to do. But 10 years ago, before I had ever heard of EverQuest, before I'd ever heard of World of Warcraft, I couldn't have done it. And then here's the darker chapter that I debated not talking about. But with that depression and with that anxiety and with that knowledge that I was severely broken to the point that I was, I didn't want to live anymore. I didn't want to be in this body. Hell, I still don't. I didn't want to be in this brain anymore. I wanted to go on to what was next. Whatever it could be, heaven, hell, the void, nothing, everything, I don't know. But whatever it was, I was ready for that next adventure. I was done here. I just wanted all that bad shit and all that brokenness and all those memories to go away. Everquest and World of Warcraft, those two games specifically, kept me alive. Because in the days that I was sitting in the bathtub with a razor blade in my hand, or the days I was looking at a bottle of pills, thinking, today's today, today's today, today's today. Instead, I'd log into my favorite game, whatever it was at the time, and I'd make that choice instead. And now, I'd be filled with regret. I mean, I wouldn't be alive, but I regret every moment I ever thought about dancing with that, because my life is better. My life is what I want it to be. The noise in my head is calm. And I owe that to Brad McQuaid. I owe that to Sony Online Entertainment. I owe that to Blizzard. You guys saved my life. There's no other way to put it. You gave me a life. So thank you for that. And stick around for part 2, and I'll tell you about how I'll probably post it on Friday or Monday, but I'll tell you about how tabletop gaming, Magic the Gathering, Dungeons & Dragons, that stuff, how it's also helped me. And I'll talk to you soon.